Hi, I'm Benjamin Bell of This Week with George Stephanopoulos, and I'm joined today by Congressman Peter Kane of New York.
Good to be here.
Welcome. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Thank you for coming in. And because we feel all politics is social here at This Week, we're putting your questions on Facebook and Twitter to the Congressman. So, first question comes from @TheLastFew on Twitter, it's his name. Do you think New York responded to the best of its ability in the aftermath of Hurricane Sandy? And he also writes, shortage of gas, looting, no power.
Yeah, there's really several parts to the question. First of all, as far as the governmental agencies, and I can speak primarily about Long Island, Nassau, and Suffolk County, I think they did virtually everything they could do, especially the police, the fire. You mentioned the looting. In Nassau County, they had extra anti-looting squads out, which was a combination of Nassau County police, state troopers, and National Guard. And looting was absolute minimum in Nassau County. And as an added benefit, they picked up a bunch of bad guys besides by having all these extra patrols out at night. It worked out very well. As far as the power, that was terrible. And that was handled by the Long Island Power Authority. We had several days into the storm, still had 500,000 and 600,000 people out of power. Now listen, this was a horrible storm. I'm not saying they could have gotten it overnight, and maybe it would have taken several weeks to get the power back. The main issue here was there was no communication, there was no timetable. So you had people, young kids were calling me up, kids had respiratory conditions, and the families wanted to know, listen, if it's going to take 10 days to get power back, so be it. Just let me know. Then I'll find another place to live. I'll move to cousins in Connecticut or Pennsylvania. LIPA had no information to give at all, and they were rude, they were arrogant, and so that was one of probably the main issues was lack of communication, lack of a schedule, and so as a result, you saw the top person in LIPA did step down, and as we go forward, we have to make sure this is corrected. LIPA was just not ready for this type of storm, and after all these years, you think they would have been. As far as, I think the main issue is going to face us right now is going to be in housing. I don't know the full amount yet, but we're going to have thousands of people homeless on Long Island, and we don't have available housing. So that's going to be the issue, is how the housing issue is addressed.
What lessons can New York learn, if any, as it relates to a possible terrorist attack? Like, obviously, it's a crisis. Do you see those things as related on some level in the way that a city responds?
Yeah. Well, first of all, it would show what would happen if the power grid were attacked. Because I can tell you, communication. I'm not going into detail. Communication was very difficult during those days. So if this had been a terrorist attack rather than a natural disaster, like during that time, I was talking to police, and they were saying if there was a terror cell up and running in New York, the damage they could have done during that time, because communication was very poor. That shows that we have to have backup alternative communication systems in place when something like this happens.
Yeah, it seems pretty alarming.
Well, I remember being in Nassau County with a county executive who had a satellite phone, and he still was unable to make phone calls.
Governor Cuomo spoke with our Diane Sawyer after the hurricane hit, and he basically seemed to say that, climate change is here and we have to deal with it. I think we're going to have to deal with it, is an exact quote. What exactly does that mean? Does that mean some sort of, barrier for New York? Well,
first of all, whether or not it's climate change is, that's the second issue. Let's assume it is, assume it's not, it really doesn't matter. This showed that we have to be ready for this type of storm. And I remember going back 6, 7 years when I first became chairman of the Homeland Security Committee, which also includes natural disasters, and getting these briefings from the weather experts, and particularly involving Long Island, saying, well, if this happened and this happened, show me how far up the water could come. I said, has this ever happened before? Well, once back in 1938. So you never really thought it was going to happen. If it did, it's once every 75 years, which is what it turned out to be. But also showing how at Battery Park, Lower Manhattan, the subway system, the Battery Tunnel, the tunnels, how all these things would happen. And the odds of it happening, you figure 1 in a million. Well, now we see that it is real. And New York was built, basically, other cities built up, we built down. Our subway system is really the heart of New York. We have so much, beachfront property was considered, waterfront property was considered the ideal places to live. Now, I think we are going to have to the extent we can, rebuild infrastructure, which is going to protect the city. That includes the subway systems, it includes homes along the water. And also we have to decide whether or not it makes sense to rebuild all these homes in such dangerous locations. I mean, I was in a number of places in the South Shore of Nassau County and Suffolk County. These people had just finished rebuilding from Irene,
right,
and now they're down again. Well, this is twice in 1 year. And Irene didn't really hit us. I mean, Irene sort of sideswiped us. We lucked out on Irene, and that caused a tremendous amount of damage. Now this one did hit us. So yeah, I think that, and I'm no engineering expert at all, but I think we have to, right now, whenever we build, whenever we set up building codes, whenever we talk about infrastructure, we have to assume that we're going to get more storms like this. And how do we resist them? Because as you saw, the system just, we were not equipped at all. Infrastructure was not equipped for this. The cops, the firemen, everybody did a great job. County executives, the mayor, I mean, as far as doing what humanly could be done. Right. But the infrastructure was just not there. You can't stop a subway from flooding the way our system is now. You can't stop the Battery Tunnel from flooding. You can't protect homes from being blown away in the South Shore or in Breezy Point. So I think all of that's going to have to be factored in as we go forward, and have master planners say this is not just something that may happen sometime in the future. We have to assume it's going to happen every year.
Right. And there's sort of like a lot of talk about austerity. I mean, obviously worldwide in D.C. And is that how do you square those two things? The idea of trying to reduce our massive budget deficit and debt. How do you square that with the need to restore some infrastructure in New York?
That's the issue. I mean, it really is going to be tough. This is the worst time for this to happen. We're at the worst economic time we've had since the Depression. We obviously have savings have to be made. Spending has to be cut back. And yet we have to find a way to protect ourselves, because in the long run it's going to cost us more if we don't rebuild the infrastructure.
Right.
As far as the impact on the economy and on our way of life. So that's what you elect people for, and that's our obligation.
Aaron Hassan on Facebook, who asked, it's a political question, is it your opinion that Governor Christie, while well-meaning, was also politically motivated in his TV appearances with Obama to see Obama reelected in order to set the stage for his own election to 2016? Now, granted that people could see that question as a tiny bit cynical, but at the end of the day, Chris Christie's interested in running for president in 2016, is he not?
Yeah, he is, and I've had some differences with Governor Christie in the past, but in fairness to Governor Christie, I don't think he was thinking of 2013 as far as his reelection. I think he saw the devastation affecting his state. Whether or not he should have reacted as emotionally as he did, fact is he was in the eye of that storm, literally, and I think his immediate goal was to get whatever assistance he could for his state, having the president there, showing him the damage. If he was thinking politically, he probably should not have been as friendly to President Obama as he was, if he was thinking politically, because that could hurt him in 2016. So that's why I give him a clean bill of health on that one, because if he really was thinking cynically, he would not have been as friendly to President Obama as he was. Did it hurt Mitt Romney? It wasn't so much what Governor Christie did. I think the whole event gave the president the opportunity to appear presidential, and that did take Mitt Romney off the front pages for 3 or 4 days during the last 10 days of the campaign, and that certainly hurt Governor Romney. How much? I don't know. The reason I hesitate to get into this, the politics of it, is President Obama won. I was strongly opposed to him. I strongly supported Governor Romney. The fact is, President Obama won, and any excuses you make now, to me, you should never make excuses, especially after a presidential election. If the person who wins, he wins. So I don't want to be saying you lost because of this, or Romney lost because of this or that. Fact is, President Obama won, congratulate him on it, and let's go forward. I don't want to be in the position of saying, if only this had happened, if that had happened. When you're in politics and government, you got to play the cards you're dealt. And if you don't win, and you just go home, and that's it. Fight's over.
Was he being a sore loser with the comment? I mean, does that really help the Republican Party going forward, having...
Yeah, first of all, I wouldn't have said it. I mean, no matter how you feel, listen, you can give a million reasons why you think you got a raw deal, why it worked against you. But when you go into a campaign, you know that. You know there's going to be good and bad on both sides. You take the good with the bad. It's like a football game or a baseball game. Obviously, the stakes are higher. But you can't complain about the sun coming out at the wrong time, or the thunderstorm coming at the wrong time, or the referee missing a call. Fact is, you have to factor all that in, and you got to plan on winning. And if you don't win, you don't win. That's it. You're lost.
Congressman King, thank you so much for taking time to speak to us. And thank you to all of you who submitted your questions on Facebook and Twitter. You can follow us on Twitter at ThisWeekABC and like us on Facebook at facebook.com/ThisWeekABC.